Well, should we go ahead and get started with the tasting?
Okay.
I think we're going to be starting with Martinet Bru.
Yeah, Martinet.
Yes. So if you could maybe start by telling us a little bit about your approach to this wine, the background for it.
This wine is the unique wine that we use 3 parcels. 2 of them are very little, and the main parcel, it's located at the beginning of the appellation, Priorat, just looking to Monsanto appellation, that is very fresh, the Falset area. So it's like receiving the climate approach more Monsanto, the freshness of Monsanto appellation than Priorat, because just on the road of Priorat, but the soil is Licorella. So for me, Martinet Bru is like the door for understanding Priorat. When you are tasting Martinet Bru, normally it's more drinkable than the other wines that we make, because it's more drinkable and understable, wine. But always in Priorat, the minimum wine is more complex than great major wines of other areas. So there is no wine in Priorat that is so simple, It's difficult because we have a special soil. So normally always we have a very great complexity, but this complexity can be close, and can be, or maybe more relaxed and more fine. And for me, Martinet Bru, because of that fresh climate, is like more relaxed. So for me, it's that door for understanding Priorat. If you feel comfortable with that wine, then you can climb and go inside the hard Priorat and then complicate your life.
And so you mentioned this one is a little bit more open. So it's my understanding that the goal was to preserve freshness with this wine a little bit. And so it's a little bit more approachable when it's younger than some of the others.
Yes, that's it. That was the idea, but not it's not this way because this is our idea and we are making this way. It's not because the climate of this vineyard is that freshness, like Monsanto. It's the vineyard of Dido is here, and the vineyard of of Martinet Bru is here, and the limit between Dido and Martinet Bru are on the limit between Monsanto and Priorat. The soil is completely different, but the freshness is the same, And then when you taste both wines, there is like 2 worlds, because one is Monsanto and the other is Priorat, and that's so clear. You can feel the licorice, and you can feel the blood and the iron in mouth, and this is the Priorat. You cannot feel that in Dido, because it's granitic soil, and they are in front, So the freshness of the climate is what is important in that wine.
Okay, so that's the primary influence for the freshness, is just the climate and what the grapes give you.
And then in mouth is the sensation of Priorat, and that's it. You have that complexity that is, the stamp of the area.
I'm getting lots of dark fruit, like blackberry, black cherry, black plum.
And 2018 is a very tense vintage. It's vintage that was not easy. Low temperatures at the beginning of the cycle, then keenness, and not too much rainy days. But at the end, low temperatures again and rainy days during the harvest. So when you are harvesting in cold climate, the vintage is so direct. So finally, there is an acidity so special, that is the 2018. And normally all the 18s are very complex and very narrow, I think that they need more time to open and be relaxed and explain all the different complexities. But because of the acidity and the elegance of 18, it can be closed, but it is so drinkable, and I love. It's one of my preferred vintages, 18.
And what would you say would be the ideal drinking window for this wine?
It's very, very difficult because Martinet Bru is thinking to open now and be enough relaxed, the wine and you, that you can maintain a conversation and the wine is not taking absolutely all your attention, and I think this is nice. And it happens when it's young, and it happens 10, 15 years after. Now we are selling some bottles of 1994 from Martinet Bru, and I think it's one of the best.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, wow, it was thinking just between 3-5 years. My God, we're in Priorat. The wines are, they have always long life. It's very difficult to say. If people prefers the fresh fruit, it's better now until 5 years more. And if you want more complexity, after 7 years, Martinet Bru is starting to be great, So
So
it's
they
up
just
to
have to
you.
buy multiple bottles and then try it at various points along the way to figure what's right for them. But this, I understand, is a blend of 5 different grapes. You have 28%
Yes.
Grenache, about a quarter Syrah, 23% Carignan, and then some
And then a little
Merlot.
bit. No,
Cabernet Sauvignon. Yep, Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yes. That vineyard was planted in 1993 and was like the second wine from Clos Martinet. And we make the same rating of grapevines at Clos Martinet with the idea of the 80s and 90s. That Clos Martinet and Martinet Bru, they were born in the 90s, late 80s, 90s. So it's that story. In 2000, I was starting to cut Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and part of the Syrah for regrafting with traditional grape varieties to put Carignan, more Grenache, Garnacha Peluda, Mando, and other. But I arrived one moment that I said, "Yay, stop it! I'm here making what I love with passion and all my dedication, because someday in the late 80s or during the 80s, my parents decide to plant Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah. They made Clos Martinet and Martinet Bru with that idea. So if I can respect the pure red Grenache because of 17th century, I need to respect all the grape varieties from the 80s. So I stopped cutting Cabernet, Merlot, and Syrah. So finally, I changed the percentage. Nowadays, we have more Grenache, Garnacha Peluda, and Carignan than during the 90s. But I'm trying to keep Cabernet, Merlot, and Syrah also, because they are sons of the 90s, and that's it.
Right. Yep. No, that makes sense.
We have more production here. We have, maybe it's like between 29 and 31 hectare, because it's lower vineyard and it's not in the deep Priorat. So it's all the plants are nice, are not vigorous because it's not vigorous, but are happy. And we have nice yields. When you have nice yields, that they are low, but not like Cami Pesseroles, you have more tension, you have more relax, and it's the idea of Martinet Bru. So I think that everything is balanced. It's just trying to observe and just letting be itself, and that's it.
Yes.
Okay, Cami Pesseroles 15. Cami Pesseroles, it's a vineyard planted on 1939. Here in Priorat, we had, before the phylloxera, plenty of vineyards, and the majority was red Grenache. And the best vineyards were on the top of the hills. But the phylloxera came and killed all the vineyards. And the rich people and the big families that they were the owners of the big and highest vineyards, they disappeared. And they go to the city and they close the cellars and the houses. But the viticultors, the people from the region, they stay here without vineyard because the phylloxera killed everything, and they replant. They never replant again on the top of the hills. It was so long, because everything was by foot, and they were replanting around the villages. Priorat is a little cirque with an orography very dramatic. It's little hills up and down, up and down, up and down, and very stony. So all the villages are on the bottom places. So people were replanting around the bottom places, around the villages after the phylloxera. So at the beginning of the 20th century. But when they regraph, they make the greffage with the Grenache was a disaster. So the Carignan was perfect. So they were replanting everything with Carignan. We changed red Grenache on the top, arrives the phylloxera, and they changed to Carignan onto the bottom. So the wines were passing from the very special and fine wines from the monks to are very rustic and special wines from the bottom. From Grenache to Carignan. This is an old Carignan planted after phylloxera in 1939. It remembers me all the time, our history, our tradition, our old people. They are very rustic. They are impossible. They are like Licorella, our stones, you know. When you are trying to beat like this, it's impossible to broke. But then you make like this and the rustic people from here is the same, and I adore them. I have learned so much from them, and they are so lovely. If you are a girl on face, it's impossible, but if you are loving and respecting them, then they are giving to you everything. And the Carignan is the same. So I love. For me, the Carignan is that rustic and with very hard personality, and normally it has a very low pH, and it's always crushing you, and it's like whoa. So it's very alcoholic if you want, and very concentrated, but at the same time it has a pH that is tensing it. So always it's like, and this is a part of our history, very important. And for me, it's it's like an homage to a generation that they lived the worst part of the history, and in Priorat, the poorness, the poverty, and the war and everything, and they were keeping alive that deep vineyards until nowadays. So for me, it's one of my grateful wines, just to say thanks to all that generation that were keeping alive our landscape.
Yeah, I was actually struck. There's a tribute on the tasting notes for this wine, and it states that it's an honest reflection of the historical difficulties of Priorat viticulture, of the rustic landscape, and the tenacity of its people, which very, very powerful language for sure.
That's it.
And so this is a vineyard then that you had to reinvigorate in the 90s and so forth, probably, but which was kept alive for decades during the worst time period.
And this is 15, that it's very dark vintage. It's very black always. Not just the color, it's not the sensation. It's black. All the fruit is black. And there is some other vintages, more warm vintages, that are more red, more fruity, more generous. But this is so direct also, and I adore also. They are not
very nice.
Easy vintages, you know, but it's very serious and oh my God, I adore.
And you can definitely tell the difference that even just 3 years makes between the wine we had, the Martinet Bru, and then this one. 3 years, you can already see it's evolved a little bit more.
Yeah, Carignan needs a lot of years to be understandable, all the complexity, because if not, you're fixing with the rusticity, you know, because it's very and you are like shocked, and it's like, wow, it's great, okay, that's it. But 15 years after, then when you open a bottle, then you are like crazy. The Grenache, when it's young, can be the sensation of elegance, sweetness, but you know, can be fine. When it's older, it's going bigger. Here in Priorat, the Carignan at the beginning is like rustic and like a rock, and when it's older, it's like more fine and tense, and it's like they are like crossing ways, and you don't know where you are when you are opening a 15 or 20 years old Carignan. It's like I'm in Italy, you know. It's just truffle. It's something black, subterraneous. It's like, wow, what's that? And very fine. And it's like, I think that we need to open more and more old Carignans. Old, I mean in bottle, you know, aged Carignans, because they are transporting you to another place that you never imagined. You are coming from a rusticity, and they are arriving to an elegance incredible. And I adore the Carignan. I think it's one of the best grapevines in the world.
And so a lot of people I know have a hard time waiting to open their bottles, but if they would just wait and wait and wait, they'll definitely be rewarded, and they keep improving and getting better and more complex. So
yes,
if they can find something else to drink in the meantime, they'll be rewarded for it.
But there are some cellars like Cinza Porrera, La Viña del Buit, that they have aged pure Carignans in bottle, you know, and you can go and visit them, and they can open, and then, you know, goes bump is like, what's that? You can feel the beating, you know, of the earth through an aged Carignan. And this is one of the impressionant things here in Priorat.
And this is actually the one that has very, very low production, right around 100 cases, 1,200 bottles.
Well, the 1 hectare, that is like, we have an old, very old and deep slope. We have 4,500 more or less vineyards. Every year is different. The yield, the most high yield that we never made was 1,000 kilos. But normally it's between 300 and 600. It's like, no, my God, it's like, you know, the essence of a history. I don't know. It's very difficult for explaining, because every year that we are expecting, like now, this vintage 2021, we have a lot of flowers, and all of us is like, after 2020, that was a disaster because of the mildew, and this year everything is fantastic, and it was like, we have a lot of flowers, maybe we will have a very nice yield. But I know that after the flower, just few grains are well developed, and then when you are arriving for harvest, it just 1 and 2, and it's like, oh my God, and we have very few, but it's so lovely, so lovely.
Yeah, very impressive wine for sure. I think next up we have Clos Martinet, the 2017.
Well, this was when I opened, was very reduced. Well, very no, but was reduced. It's a very special vintage that since it was bottling, it's a little bit closed, so it needs more air than the rest. 2017, it's a very hot vintage, but it's a red vintage, no black one. So it's more generous in expression. It's more fruity. It's a fruity, very, very ripe. But with at the end, because for me, it's not so pleasant, the very ripe fruit expression. I'm a little bit afraid, because with high alcohol and very fruity and so ripe, at the end, I'm drinking 1 glass, 2, and then I say, stop, I can't. But what I love from 2017 is that at the end in mouth, the acidity is going out. And it's like, wow. And then it's dancing the wine. And I adore that. That what you are expecting, and I'm saying, aye, and then it's, wow. It's like, wow, I want to drink another one. So I love.
It also has an intriguing floral aroma, like a little bit of violets or some sort of floral.
When it's opening, it's so violet. And this is, and in Clos Martinet, that is the wine from the 90s, and the vineyard of Clos Martinet is the vineyard where we have the cellar. Always is the most spicy wine that we have. In all the wines, we have a lot of spice or aromatic compounds, but maybe Clos Martinet is one of the most spicy and floral, more than fruity, you know?
And this one I opened 2 hours before we started, so almost 3 hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah, about 3 hours ago. So it's definitely opened up.
Okay. I think that this is one of the things, the difficult things in Priorat, you know? The wines are saying you, hey, wait. And sometimes we don't have enough time, and we are, you know, opening, tasting, oh, no, it's not. Another. And then you go the day after and you try again, and you say, wow, what's that? I was not looking that way, you know, yesterday, and it's like, really? And it's something nice. Here in Priorat, everything is happening slow. Nowadays, we are, you know, we have no time for nothing. But oh my God, for the wines from Priorat, Really, you need time because they need time. And if you don't have enough time, they don't mind, and that's it. So take your time because it's impressive when the wines are opening. The first impression in the wines from Priorat is not ni 10% of the nice thing that you can find if you wait or open and that's important. The wines from Priorat are that way. They are not easy.
What would you recommend in terms of aging for this one? I know for the Pesseroles, Cami Pesseroles recommended about 15 years, but how about for the Clos Martinet?
Clos Martinet, I love after minimum 7 years. Well, if you can, but I know that between 7 and 14, for me, it's still little fruity or floral. The spice is going up, but the terroir scent is going up. So there is a nice balance between from primary to, well, after 7 years, primary, it's disappearing almost. But yes, a little bit primary, secondary, tertiary aromatic compounds. And so for me, the complexity and the balance is perfect between 7 and 14. Then I adore to open a 1919. And I'm crying. It's amazing. I love aged wines, but it's true that between 7 and 14, I adore Clos Martinet in that margin of time. Yeah.
And this one is about 2/3 Grenache, 20% Syrah, 10% Carignan, and then a little bit of Cabernet and Merlot.
It's not the same exactly than Martinet Bru because every year, depending on the flowering, everything, you have more one or the other. But it's like Martinet Bru in surface of plantation. Then there are some vintages that you have less Grenache, more Syrah, less Carignan, But it's that idea about 90s, that I was talking about.
And from my last discussion with you and Rene, I actually learned that there's not just one type of Grenache. There's multiple types of Grenache. It's not just red Grenache. How many types of Grenache are you using in the Clos Martinet?
We are using red Grenache and Garnacha Peluda, hairy Grenache, that is another one. And we have been replanting, but this is not permit, but gray Grenache.
Okay.
But I adore. So I put all the different Grenache inside. Well, not white, but yes, the rest. Yeah.
Right. And can you actually taste the difference between the different types of Grenache? Are they each unique?
It's completely different, but it's amazing because when you are making DNA analytics of the plant, they cannot make the difference between one or the other. But when you see the plant and when you taste the grapes, when you see the grapes and when you are vinifying, they are like different worlds. So you can make a Grenache wine with 5 different type of Grenache, and then you have a complexity like crazy, So it's very nice. I think that it's very nice. And the blended of a little bit of gray or white inside the plantation and maceration and co-fermentation, I think that this is the point.
In my WSET program, one of the things I'm learning is that Grenache can have some problems with oxidation. And you mentioned that before a little bit earlier. Is there any precautions you have to take to prevent oxidation for Grenache?
I think that was something that we think, but because the Grenache has an enzymatic portion that it's called oxidasa, that it locks the oxygen and it's oxidating. That's okay. But if you are managing normal, the Grenache is not oxidating. So we were about oxidation, and for that we planned with Cabernet and Syrah and Carignan that all of them are very reductive to compensate, to make the balance with the oxidative part of the Grenache. But after some years, we discovered that, oh my God, no, if you're working as a red wine and not an oxidative wine, it's perfect. But it's true that if you are trying to oxidize the Carignan because you want to make a rancio or I don't know, it's very difficult to arrive a very nice oxidative wine. But the Grenache It's very easy and very elegant in that way also. But you can work as a red wine, and it's not, you cannot have the sensation of the oxidation.
Well, shall we move on? And we've got one more to taste, a very special wine.
Well, very special, this. This is a limited edition, and I hope that I never repeat it again. Well, this is Els Escurcons, and well, maybe it's 2 years that I'm not tasting this wine, because we make escurcons from one vineyard, very nice, on the top of the hill, that we plant again in 1999. But there was a very mythic vineyard in that place before the phylloxera. So we plant with pure Grenache, red Grenache, from the wood from the ancient Grenache from Porrera, and one village of here from Priorat, trying to reproduce the vineyard that was existing during the 17th century. But 2015, on the month of June, all the forest around was burned, 30 hectares. So the first week of June was in flowering. So we lose everything. All the plants were growing up again. But it was June, and they were go fast. And they were growing up, they were flowering, they were making grapes. And I said, if they are at the end with a happy end, I will make the harvest and I will win a farm. And we did it. And then was a starting fermentation, and it was smoky, and just smoky, all the cellar. And it was like, oh my God, that grapes never touched the fire or the smoke, because everything was burnt and everything was rebirthing. But all the rootstocks, all the ambient, so all the molecules of the smoky were into the grapes. And it was amazing. And the molecule of the smoke, it's a preservative in natural and traditional elements, and nutrition. So people was smoking the fish or vegetables, all of that, to stop fermentation or other process. So the grapes were starting fermenting, and then were stopping, and then restarting, and then stopping. And it was 18 months fermenting.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, and I said, and we were smelling and tasting, so smoking. We said, oh my God, this is impossible. But I promise, if it finishes the fermentation, all the sugar, I put in bottle and I sell it. And it was finishing. And then we need to put that fennec bird on the label, and a contra label, to explain that it's from smoky grapes.
Rising from the ashes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But it's very special. And now it's smoky in smelling, and in mouth at the end it's so smoky. But this is the reality, the fire on the Mediterranean forest, and how the agriculture can preserve the fire, and this is very important. So for us it's very special. It was difficult, very difficult moments. All our energy during a lot of years was to recuperate on the top of the hill all that vineyard, and then the fire was like burning everything. It was like, oh, no, is that possible? Yes. So we have Escurcons from 2006, that is the first vintage that I decided to bottle, to 2014. That was single vineyard from Grenache on the top, surrounded by forest. 2015, smoky one. And from 2017, Grenache on the top of the hill without forest. And the wine is completely different. It's so, from 6 to 14, it's very fine, elegant, and shy. And from 17, it's wow. So we need to understand again what is Escurcons, because when the landscape around is changing, the wine is changing. So in that moment, I have understood that the vineyard, the grapes, and the expression of the wine is more that what is happening inside the vineyard. And the wine can explain all the landscape around. And this is very, very, very important for us.
Yeah, that's amazing that the grapes weren't even on the vine yet during the fire, and yet they still have that smoke, because it's, as you said, it's pretty noticeable.
Depend of every bottle and every moment, because some people is calling me saying, "Hey, there is now a smoky on 15." Oh my God! And now in my bottle is so smoky, but it depends.
This is another one. When I first opened it, it wasn't quite as prominent, but now that I go back to it after it's been open for a while, I can tell.
Yeah,
much
when
more.
well, that's it. When it's opening, it's showing different things, more fruity also, but also the smoky is going up. So it depends. But it's important that people know that this is a smoky one, because if not, you're gonna smell and taste and say, "What's that?"
Right. What about in 2016? Was there any carryover of the smoke into the next vintage?
Nothing. But 16 and 17, the vineyard was so stressed. And the wines are very close and very cool. 16 more than 17. 17 now it's starting to be more relaxed. 18 was the first vintage that was pretty relaxed. 19 is, and 20 is, whoa, happy. But it needs 2 years and a half to recuperate from the very stress of the fire.
Right. And I know what you're going to say, but I'll ask anyway. I know there's techniques like reverse osmosis to try to remove smoke from.
Really?
So at least what I've read and I've studied, where there's an extreme filtration process where they can separate the different components and isolate the smoky aromas, and then try to separate them from the wine, and then put it back together again to try to eliminate the smoke. I understand that's completely against your minimal intervention philosophy.
Yeah, that's completely against my philosophy, but I can understand that, I'm making 3,000 bottles of this wine. It's a little vineyard with a lot of force, and we are trying to imprime the character of every vintage. And if we had a fire, this is what we had. You are free to take the bottle or not. But for me to pervert so much, wow, it's not my philosophy. But I understand if I was I'm in Australia and I have fire every 3 years and I'm making, I don't know, 1 million bottles, probably I need to make reverse osmosis, or what you say. But it's up to every producer. It's not absolute. It's not our philosophy, for sure. I prefer to show what we are, what we have, what we think, what we feel, what we are passionate about. The rest, it's okay, but it's not our way.
So I remember both you and Rene mentioning that you're not necessarily trying to make perfect wines. You're trying to make the wine that's faithful to the particular vintage that year.
Yeah. Yes. That is a very licit and fantastic option to follow, to search for the perfection, for the idea of the perfection. But for me, the idea of perfection is just trying to show exactly what I see, what I feel. That means be patient and wait and don't get nervous, and let it be. And most of time that is moving you to another way. And sometimes it's difficult, because sometimes the final consumer is saying to you, "What's that? I don't understand." Yeah, but it's life. And I prefer that. In all the terms of our lives, education, gastronomy, way of thinking, way of respecting our people that is working with us, and that's it.
Yeah, there's some wines that you get them, and every single year they're trying to make the same wine. They're trying to make it just fit one certain profile year in, year out. These are not those wines at all. You'll actually be able to experience what was going on during that particular year when you enjoy these wines.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's a question also as a consumer, because I make wines, but first of all, I'm a great consumer of of wine. This is maybe one day I don't make wine, but I never will stop to drink wine. I think I really love when I open a bottle and it's moving me. It's explaining me something that I don't know. This is what I adore because I'm learning in that moment because something is like shocking me. Sometimes I hate the wine. Sometimes I'm crying. Sometimes I'm super adorable. Sometimes I don't know, but all of that movement, if I open a bottle and the wine is so tiny that is not explaining, not moving, nothing here, I don't have time for that. I need to learn. I'm, avid for learning, for experiences. And I think that opening bottles from around the world that are telling different stories, so amazing, so different from my home, from my vision of the world. I think that this is so nice. So I'm not drinking perfect technical wines because they are bored for me. They are not showing me nothing interesting.
Right. What are some of your favorites to enjoy from other regions? Which regions do you enjoy drinking?
All of them, Collio, Slovenia, Piemonte. I don't know, because they are well known, but other little things, Bullas in Spain, Jerez, absolutely. The region is very important, but producers in the same region has the same opportunity. Then I love the different approach to live and to transmit that region. And I'm drinking more this natural approach than a conventional approach because I understand all that, and they are shocking me. Sometimes I don't like the wine. Sometimes I'm very angry. Angry with me, not with the wine, because I'm not understanding anything. But I'm learning always, and I think that this is amazing.
That's a good point. There's actually producers in every region around the world that are making outstanding examples of their particular wine. So it's not just this region or that region. It's producer specific.
Yeah, I prefer that. And then when we taste different things, and we say, "Wow, what's that?" Then we move and we go there, and never we have been disappointed. Never. Behind a special bottle of wine, always there is an amazing people, and then is when you can learn a lot. Visiting them and sharing your experience and their experience with you, and then it's like, wow. I think this is the most beautiful point in our life, for sure.
I completely agree, and hopefully we'll all be able to start traveling soon and making those visits again.
Yeah.
Would you like to say a couple words about Venus?
Oh, yes. This is another project in another appellation, but we are so close. We are so close because Priorat appellation is like a cirque, and then there is a Monsanto appellation that is a ring around Priorat, and we are working in this place of the Priorat appellation and in this place of Monsanto appellation. So it's what I was talking about before. Martinet Bru here and Dido is here. So we are in the same place, but two different soils, and then two different climates, two different orographies, and two different projects. And Venus is our project in Monsanto, is where we are living. I'm making this connection from Venus because it's our home with our kids and with our vineyard. And I have Escurcons in front of first Martinet Bru and then Escurcons in front of my face.
So the vineyards are right outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a particular project because when we have started the Venus project, the Monsanto appellation, it doesn't exist. But I used to work in Mas Martinet and Cimse Porrera in the middle of the appellation of Priorat with that schist Licorella soil, very dark and very hot. And I was going to Falset, that is the place where we are in Monsanto. And wow, it's a granitic soil. So I was coming from a gray and very dark soil. And when I was arriving to Monsanto, it was like the light was opening, and the quartz from our soil is refracting and multiplying the light, and it's fresh weather here, and it's so close, just 5 kilometers distance. But wow, it's another place. So I was at the end of 90s, I was dreaming with more elegant and fresh wines than I used to make in Priorat in Mas Martinet, because it was 90s that I was working with more structure and more ripening style. I need to start something different, and that was Venus. It was searching for a elegant and hidden beauty into the wines. I adore the approach of the winemakers in no mind if the region has a great name or not, because I have started with a great passion, because I was feeling that the place for Venus was that place, and that was amazing, and that was our starting, and absolutely focused in Carignan at the beginning, and because of the freshness also, and oh my God, for me it was like a school of life, starting Venus.
And that's a project that you have with Rene. The two of you are involved in that one.
Yeah, and now it's our home with Rene. So Mas Martinet is more with my brothers and sister, and family, parental family, and Venus is with Rene and the kids, and that's it. And we have the same vision of life and world and wines in general terms. But when we're arriving to the concrete, oh my God, we are so different. To decide, So I'm more focused in vineyard, and Rene is more focused in cellar. But finally, we're tasting together, we are deciding together, and this is so difficult, and it's another life school.
And so with Venus, I know you have the white wine, and then also the rosé I enjoy very much as well.
Yes, I adore. It's a different vision of the rosé world, and I really love. Yes, we get it with the rosé.
And we've had only red wines, but white wine is actually doing quite well in the region as well. And so for those who haven't tried the white wines, they should seek those out too, because they're very, very, very interesting white wines.
I think that since 2000, well, before, but since 2000, people in Priorat and after in Monsanto, but first in Priorat, was starting to look at white wines, because you must think that we are into the south. All the literature in enology is coming from Germany and France, absolutely. And all of them with vincular regions of climate, they say the south, the south is just for oxidative and sweet wines. That's it. And this is something that, year by year by year, we know it. All the generations, they know it. Just rantios and sweet. This is not a good region for dry wine. So finally, one of the most important things that the generation of my father, Alvaro Rene, was that they say, what? We will do it. And they do it. And then Priorat was absolutely the great region in the world for red. But all of us knew that just for red, because white is for cold areas. And that's it. And in 2000, the second generation, we have started a silent revolution about wines. And we said the white wine made with local grapevines can be amazing, Mediterranean white wine. And that's it. So we have started. Nowadays, I think that there is like 1/3 of white and 2/3 of red. In number of bottles, it's just 10% of white in Priorat. But it's so present, the white, because all the people wants to experiment and make. And they are super amazing. Mediterranean ones, we are in the south. That's it. We cannot imitate, I don't know, Burgundy or Moselle or,
Right.
But they are so great. Yes.
In which grapes, which local grapes are you working with there? Is it Grenache Blanc?
In Mas Martinet, I'm working with
white pickle, white Grenache, and Pedro Ximenez, and also a little bit of free local but disappeared grapes like white Trepat, Escañabelles, and white Carignan.
Okay. And so that would be the fifth wine that we didn't taste today. It's the white wine?
Yes, that's it.
And is that one available in the United States as well? Or is that?
Yeah, it's called Pesseroles Brisat. I made with fermented with the skins and the stems. So it's like an orange because it's our traditional way of work into the South, you know? So we are not making direct press. We are making orange wine.
Okay.
And that's it. Yes. And it's arriving now in United States. But we have very few bottles, huh? It's a very little parcel.
So that's a small production.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I could go on and on for the rest of the day doing this because I'm enjoying it so much and have so much fun. But I don't want to take too much of your time. And it's certainly been a pleasure. And thank you so much for joining me today.
No. Thank you for making that connection. Really. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon.